Hello, welcome to this educational video. Today we'll be discussing about some of the important aspects of a particular neurological disorder called as Parkinson's disease. Most of you, when you hear the word Parkinson's, you relate it to some problem in a person to his body movement. That means a person who has Parkinson's generally has problems with the movement of his limbs, will have resting tremor. That means there is involuntary shaking of fingers, for example, and there is problem related to the movement of the legs. There is difficulty in or slowness in movement, or there is problem with the balance. Overall, clinically, if you want to define Parkinson's disease, it is called as a movement disorder. So these kind of disabilities, these kind of problems you can actually see in a person who has Parkinson's disease. But apart from this visible disability or visible movement problems, is there any other symptom that is commonly observed in Parkinson's patients? Let us pose this question to our expert, Dr. Ravi Yadav, who is working as professor of neurology, and he has been working in the field of Parkinson's and movement disorder for quite some time. Namaste, doctor, and welcome to this program. When you hear the term Parkinson's, everybody knows that this has something to do with the movement or motor function of the person. But apart from that, is there anything that we have to look for in a person who has Parkinson's?
Yes. So it's a very nice question, Dr. Bharat. Overall, since last many years, it has been people were only concerned about improving the movements, looking at the tremors, whatever is visible.
Okay.
But there is a lot of things that we know now in last 20-25 years by some of the very pioneer work by one of Indian origin neurologist from UK, Dr. Ray Chaudhary, and then he highlighted that there are a vast universe of other problems which are associated with the Parkinson's disease. These are known as non-motor symptoms.
Non-motor.
So motor is the tremor, slowness which we see.
Correct.
But what additional things a person is going through are non-motor. So among that, I will go one by one. One of very important thing is REM sleep behavior disorder. So this is a kind of sleep disorder where the mechanism that during sleep the person's limbs don't move. Like, for example, it's like a completely paralyzed kind of state in REM sleep. So although the dreaming goes on, the dreams a person will be able to see, but body would not move. But in Parkinson's disease, there is an abnormal protein which gets deposited known as alpha-synuclein, leads to release of that phenomena. So during the dreams, a person can move the hands, legs, and will start hitting out. For example, if he's running, he'll try to enact that, and then he may fall on the bed, he may try to hit the bed partner, and this may precede the onset of Parkinson's disease by 10-20 years also.
I understood now two things. One is, first of all, this might happen even before the major symptoms might come.
Yes.
And one interesting thing is for lay people like me who are otherwise normal and healthy, so we don't move during sleep. And these people, they might have the symptoms.
Yes. So it has been found that those normal people who have REM sleep behavior disorder, known as idiopathic REM sleep behavior disorder, they have 80% to 90% chance of developing Parkinson's disease later in their life.
So this sort of a symptom. So if I see somebody who has this kind of symptoms? So is it safe to say that it is a possibility that
it is now considered as a alpha-synucleinopathy. So same pathology,
problem. Okay.
But it is in the very early stage where it is just affecting that sleep circuit.
Okay.
It has not gone into that Frank syndrome. So this is one important thing.
Sleep disturbance, sleep problem.
REM sleep behavior disorder.
Okay, sleep disorder. Okay.
So now the studies are going on to identify these people and do certain tests. Research work is going on so that Parkinson's disease, the development of Parkinson's disease can be stopped by doing some intervention, giving some medicine, changing lifestyle, so many things. So it's like a substrate for experiments. But once it develops in Parkinson's disease, then it is part of non-motor syndrome. Second is depression. So depression is another almost 50 to 70% of patients may have coexisting depression. So they should be not only treated for motor symptoms,
but also for the
and appropriate questions should be asked and by the treating doctor, because this is one of the very important cause of self-harm in some of these patients.
So if you say depression, that is, if a person has this motor problem, he is undergoing treatment for Parkinson's, that leads to depression, or depression is already there?
Already there, and also both things may happen. So this is treatable part. So we take help of our psychiatry colleagues, and then and this is also very rewarding. So untreated depression can bring a lot of problem. Then third is anxiety. So anxiety and depression almost go hand in hand. So many times we have to identify and treat appropriately. Then autonomic symptoms. So constipation is very
sorry,
difficult.
before you go, so the anxiety part is again, this is the person anxious because he has the symptoms, or it's not related to Parkinson's?
No, it is related to Parkinson's.
It is related. It is developed along with that.
There is a limit for anxiety which a normal person can have in certain situations. But these people have pathological anxiety, which is part of the Parkinson's disease.
But again, you treat the same way you treat any anxiety symptoms.
Yes,
along with Parkinson's medication.
As a separate.
Okay. Sorry, I cut you because I wanted to have more information. So you're talking about the gastrointestinal.
Then GI is because constipation, because of the motility of the intestine also becomes impaired. So there is the passage of motion becomes almost once in 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. Then pain can happen different. So this is a very disabling and problematic symptom.
That means whatever movement problem that is happening, that will affect not only the limbs, but also the inner organs. That means there is problem with the intestine.
So it is the enteric nervous system. The intestine movement also is controlled by nerves. So that peristaltic movement is lost because it has been found now that the same pathology which is affecting the brain also damages the nerves which are involved in movement of the gut.
Again, that also sort of coexists with this, and in the sense, so for people who have Parkinson's, most of them will have this constipation problem. So in that case, how do you treat?
So there are multiple methods. Most important is hydration. So if the fluid intake is less, that can lead to the consistency of stool may drop down. Then adequate intake of green vegetables, salads, fruits to improve the bulk content of the. Then thirdly, there are some gastrokinetic drugs which increase the gut motility. And then fourthly, there are certain gut microbiota also changes. So the bacterial content in patients of Parkinson's disease changes. We have to give healthy, there are certain preparations which are given.
Improve the bacterial content of the gastrointestinal. So that will improve the
motility
movement.
Yes. So this is a newer concept in last 5 to 10 years. So the patients are to be treated because clearly studies have shown that the patients with Parkinson's disease, their gut bacteria are significantly different as compared to the bacteria of healthy people. So that also has to be addressed. And one of the theory actually of causative etiology of Parkinson's is gut microbiota changes. So they say that probably the Parkinson starts from the gut, then travels through the vagus nerve to the brain stem.
So there is a stimulus through the gut.
Yeah, something happens. So dual hit hypothesis is there, where there are two sites from which it is presumed that the abnormal protein deposition starts many years before the real onset of symptom. So one is the gut, and second is the olfactory area, smell.
Olfactory and smell.
Smell pathway. So what has been proposed, and some studies are there to say that this early loss of smell happens in patient. They give patients with PD give a history of loss of smell many years before onset of motor symptoms. So it is presumed that the pathology or the deposition of alpha-synuclein starts in the olfactory system, then goes and travels to the brain. Second hit is in the gut. So from the gut it goes to the vagus, then dorsal. There is an area of medulla where it goes, then ascends upwards. It's kind of stages in which the progression happens.
But looks like, I mean, what I can understand is even before the bigger symptom or visible symptom, like the motor symptom, movement symptom is being manifested. So things are happening in the background. Like you told about, sleep problems.
Decades before.
That's actually interesting, and I mean, if somebody keeps track of this, so this will be able to help the patient.
So here there is a very interesting concept which is prodromal Parkinson's disease.
Prodromal,
So if somebody has a normal person who doesn't have Parkinson's symptom has anosmia, that is loss of smell, or constipation, or REM sleep behavior disorder. There is a criteria for research as of now where different strategies are being tried for neuroprotection to halt the progress.
So if we take care of these symptoms, it is possible we can sort of delay the onset of the major symptoms.
That is the interesting part, because by lifestyle changes, exercise is neuroprotective. So good amount of exercise, lot of sunlight exposure, then antioxidants, whatever, and avoiding any exposure to toxic agents in the environment. So a combination of these are being tried so that the progression can be halted, and some medicines are also being tried. Lot of billions of dollars of research is going into this. So it is possible that there would be some hope in future to arrest this before the onset of Parkinson's.
But once the motor symptoms happen, they are manifested. So, but these symptoms will nevertheless continue, is it?
Yeah, many of them continue.
But is it possible that all these symptoms happen in all patients?
No, it's not like that. Very nice question. Because the pathology will be different. So some within Parkinson's, now it is said it is a Parkinson's syndrome. So within Parkinson's disease also there are various patterns. Some do not, some have mild tremors for many years. They don't have any of the non-motor symptoms. Very nicely responsive to medicines. Some have more of drooling, some have more of constipation, some have more of depression. So within Parkinson's disease there are 2-3 patterns which have been identified. So one group is the benign type, milder variant, which for many years, 20, 23 years, 30 years, they just need a small, slowly escalating dose of levodopa. They do very well without any much intervention. Second group is intermediate group, which progresses and will develop non-motor symptoms, gait problems and all. And the third group is malignant group.
Okay.
So that one has both motor, lot of non-motor, that is depression, anxiety, gut problems, and dementia. And so they are the ones who have progressed faster.
Correct. Anyway, when you were talking, I also thought of a couple of things which I didn't understand. One is the drooling part. You said that, I mean, the patients tend to drool, is it?
Yes.
That means, why is that they are not able to control that? Or?
So there are two things. One is because of the reduced swallowing process.
That is also affected.
Yes.
Okay.
Because whole of the gut is also become slow.
So they are not able to control this.
Yes. So normal person would go on swallowing, for example,
correct.
10 times or more per minute. But in the patients with PD, there will be slowness in that also.
So that causes the
so that causes collection of the normal saliva in the and would not be swallowed.
And you are talking about dementia, because I understand that is something which will affect even other people, and this is more prevalent in people who are older, let us say 60 or 65. So dementia can happen. So this dementia can also coexist with Parkinson's.
Yes. So as you are already aware that Alzheimer's is the commonest type of dementia, neurodegeneration in the world.
Okay.
But in Parkinson's disease, a specific type of dementia happens due to Lewy body deposition. So Lewy bodies are small like abnormal deposits which happen
in the brain.
Yes, because of alpha-synuclein deposits. So they get deposited in the brain in various parts and lead to a specific pattern, which is so this is seen in Parkinson's disease.
Okay, so this deposition will hinder the function of those brain regions, which might cause not only Parkinson's symptoms, but also the dementia kind of problem.
Yes. Yeah. So, but they occur in the later part of. Usually, some cognitive problems may happen. Okay. But the frank dementia happens later maybe in the 20-25 years or 15 years. If detailed assessment is done by some neuropsychologist, he will be able to detect the problems early. But the frank dementia happens later.
Okay. Okay. So I mean that's I mean for a person who is just known about motor symptoms, there's a lot of information, talking about so many things. Anything, starting from the way you process your saliva, you swallow, up to the way the body is able to handle the stools and causing other problems. This is very interesting and adds a new dimension, and that's why it's no longer called as a lot of single disease. It is like a
generalized systemic
disease. So if you want to just maybe summarize in 2 sentences and give a message to the public.
So the list of non-motor symptoms is long. Okay. But awareness about the presence in a patient is very important, and also seeking the guidance from an expert. So sleep problems, REM sleep behavior, violent dreams and action, for if the person is falling from the bed, etc., depression, anxiety. Orthostatic disease, getting up there is a vertigo or dizziness like that may happen due to blood pressure drop, constipation and drooling. So these are the common non-motor symptoms, and if they can be treated adequately.
Okay. And interestingly, many of these you said happen before the onset of the main symptom.
And that is yes, they can precede. Not all.
Okay.
So in individual, patient to patient.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for providing elaborate information about the non-motor symptoms of Parkinson's disease.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Namaste.